Open up any social media feed and you are instantly bombarded. Endless 5-minute routines, magic fat-burning pills, and targeted belly fat blasters promise a chiseled midsection with minimal physical effort. We perform millions of crunches and buy endless gadgets, yet that defined washboard look rarely materializes. The failure happens because we treat the stomach as a single flat canvas to be sculpted in isolation. This obsession with visible abdominals goes back over a century. Early physical culturists built highly defined midsections long before modern supplements or specialized ad machines existed. To actually reveal the abdominal muscles, we have to stop fighting a localized war. The midsection is a three-dimensional biological system. Revealing it requires mastering the math of 3 distinct layers: adipose tissue, musculature, and the internal organs. Visible abdominal definition is the mathematical byproduct of systemic, whole-body biology. The first layer is adipose tissue, or body fat. Doing a crunch does absolutely nothing to the fat sitting directly on top of the stomach. The actual biological mechanism for burning fat is a process called lipolysis. This circulatory system model shows lipolysis. The body converts stored triglycerides into fatty acids, pulling energy from random fat stores to fuel working muscles systemically. Consequently, the abdominal wall only becomes visible when body fat drops to 10 to 14% for men and 15 to 19% for women. You cannot sculpt what is buried under adipose tissue. A systemic caloric deficit is the only biological trigger that clears this first layer, making localized ab gadgets useless. Clearing the fat only reveals what is underneath. If the underlying muscle lacks density, a low body fat percentage results in a flat stomach, not a defined one. The superficial layer of muscle is the rectus abdominis. These are the visible bumps. Like your biceps or chest, they only grow larger through progressive overload and spinal flexion, physically curling the torso forward against resistance. People have utilized spinal flexion for decades. Routines like synchronized leg raises force the rectus abdominis to contract and build that superficial density. This anatomical illustration shows the transversus abdominis. Acting as an internal corset, it sits beneath the superficial bumps to protect the spine. Isometric exercises like the stomach vacuum target the deep stabilizing tension anchoring this muscle to the pelvis, drawing the waistline inward. A functional core relies on this dual approach. You need superficial hypertrophy to build the visual bumps and deep isometric strength to maintain structural integrity. You can hit 10% body fat and build dense muscle, yet the midsection can still look soft or asymmetrical. This brings us to the third layer, internal variables. The first variable is DNA. The horizontal bands of connective tissue that divide your abdominal muscles into a six-pack are genetically hardwired. If those bands are staggered, you will have an asymmetrical midsection. Genetics dictate whether you have a 4-pack or an 8-pack. The second variable is the gut microbiome. Severe internal swelling in the digestive tract will push the abdominal wall outward, obscuring even the leanest muscles. This flowchart illustrates the chemical cascade behind that bloat. High stress or spikes in blood sugar trigger a rush of cortisol. Your nervous system shifts into a fight or fright state, which slows down gut motility. Food sits longer, bacteria ferment, and the intestines physically expand. Aesthetic outcomes are determined by individual biology. DNA dictates the shape and symmetry of the muscles, while gut health determines if that canvas lies flat or pushes outward. A visible six-pack requires a rare biological alignment, low systemic body fat, hyper-developed superficial and deep muscle layers, and internal gut harmony. This systemic biological reality renders isolated quick fixes completely irrelevant. A 5-minute crunch routine cannot override total body lipolysis or a stressed digestive system. Reaching this physical state requires systemic diet management to trigger fat loss, dual-layer training to build both the corset and the exterior bumps, and active regulation of stress to maintain gut health. Washboard abdominals represent the final physical output of systemic, holistic human health.